Hey guys, today we are moving on, but kind of doing the same thing. Today we're talking about multiplying rational expressions. Now, we're still factoring, we're still canceling out, and the only real difference is we start with 2, and we're just kind of merging it into 1. The great thing about when you multiply is you can just kind of combine the top, combine the bottom, and then cancel out. All right, so let's move down. Let's try our hand on a couple of these. So starting with number 1. First off, we check and see if there's anything that we can factor. And in this particular problem, there's not. And I'll tell you why. There's no addition or subtraction signs. So if you don't see any addition or subtraction signs, there's nothing we can factor. So we just start off with multiplying. So we're going to start off, we're going to multiply the top. We're going to go 5 times 6 is 30. X squared times x is x cubed. And then we just have that y cubed left over. Then we're going to multiply the bottom. We're going to go 2 times 10 is 20. X times, well, there's no x over here, so it's just going to stay x. Y squared times y is y cubed. Then we're going to go in and start canceling out and simplifying, okay? So first, our numbers. 30 over 20, I can simplify that to 3 over 2, right? Then x cubed divided by x, that leaves me with an x squared. And then y cubed divided by y cubed, those just end up canceling because we have the same amount on top and bottom, so I don't have any more y's. So my answer is just going to be, I guess I can write that a bit more pretty, it's going to be 3x squared over 2. Now, we still need to find our undefined values, and your undefined values are any value that would make your denominator be equal to 0. So normally, we would take each factor and set each factor on the bottom equal to 0, and we'd find out our defined values. On this one, I don't really have any factors. And so all I really have to do is say, okay, what makes x equal to 0? Because x is on the bottom. Well, 0. So we know x can't equal 0. And y can't equal 0 either. So if you don't have any factors, just whatever variables are in your denominator, those just can't be 0. Okay? All right, let's move on. Let's talk about number 2. So number 2, kind of doing the same thing. We're going to be multiplying across the top and the bottom. And we don't need a factor first because I don't have any plus or minuses. So we're just going to multiply first and then simplify. Before I get too far, though, let's go ahead and talk about our undefined values. Our undefined values are just going to be x can't equal 0 and y can't equal 0. Because once again, just like this last one, we have an x and a y on the bottom. There's no factors, so we should go from there. Now let's multiply. Let's start off multiplying our top together. 4xy cubed times y is going to be 4xy to the 4th divided by 8 times 1 is just 8. X squared times x is x cubed, and then y times 1y is just y. Then we simplify. Starting off, 4 divided by 8 is 1/2, so we can just have a 2 on bottom. We don't have to write the 1 on top. Then x cubed divided by x divided by x cubed. Remember, whenever we divide these, we subtract and we go where the bigger number is. So I'm going to have an x squared on bottom. Then y to the 4th divided by y. Remember, there's an invisible 1 right there. That's y to the 1. So we can simplify there. Y to the 4th divided by y to the 1 is going to be y cubed. And then that is our answer. All right, let's move on to a bit more complicated. Let's take a look at number 3. So number 3, I actually have to factor. In fact, I have 4 different quadrants that I can potentially factor in. And so we're going to try to factor first, and then we're going to combine this into one big fraction. Because remember, whenever you multiply, just multiply the tops and the bottoms. In other words, we can just make one big fraction. So let's start off. I'm going to take this 2x squared minus x minus 3 over here so I can factor it, okay? So we have 2x squared minus x minus 3. Now, first step in factoring, look for a GCF. Second step, decide how many terms I have. Well, here I could have 2, 3, or 4 terms. Here I have 3 terms. So in 3 terms, we're going to factor by using the x and plus method. Remember, this is my a. We have a b of -1 and a c of -3. So we go a times c on top. So I'm going to have negative 6 on top. On bottom, we have negative 1. So we're going to think of two numbers that multiply to equal negative 6, but add to equal negative 1. And those two numbers are negative 3 and 2. Okay, then we go ax over here. So we're going to have 2x minus 3 and 2x plus 2. So 2x minus 3, I'm going to go ahead and build out my new fraction right here. So here's my new fraction. On bottom, we're going to have a 2x minus 3, right? 2x minus 3 times, oh, but this one can reduce, right? I can reduce that to an x plus 1 because we can divide both of those by a 2. All right, so we're going to have 2x minus 3 times x plus 1. And I don't know why I'm putting this on the bottom. Obviously, this should go on the top of my fraction. So let's draw my fraction again. On top of my fraction, we're going to have 2x minus 3 times x plus 1. All right, there's the top of my fraction. Now let's factor the bottom of my fraction and factor this guy out. So let's take this x squared plus x over here. And I can just pull out a GCF. So I can just pull out an x and make this x times x plus 1. All right, so that's going to go on the bottom of my fraction. X times x plus 1. Then we are multiplying this, and we're going to factor the other side too. So let's start with this one here, this 4x squared plus 4. We can factor that over this way and then put it back. So this 4x squared plus 4x, I can factor that by pulling out GCF, and we have a GCF of 4x. That's going to leave me with x plus 1 as my other factor. So that's going to go on top of this side, 4x times x plus 1. And then on bottom, this 2x minus 3, I would bring it out to factor it over on the side, but I don't need to. I can just leave it there. It doesn't factor, so we're just going to leave that there, 2x minus 3. Okay, now that we've factored, we're going to find what my undefined values are. My undefined values are when we take my factors in the bottom and set them each equal to 0. If I set x equal to 0, we get an undefined value of x can't equal 0. X plus 1, set that equal to 0, and we get x equals negative 1. So that means that's another thing. X can't be negative 1, or it makes a 0 down there. So x can't equal negative 1. And the last one, this 2x minus 3, if I set that equal to 0, if I add 3 and divide by 2, we get x equals 3 over 2. So that's the last thing that x can't equal is a 3 over 2. So these are my undefined values. Next, whenever we multiply fractions, all we're really doing is just kind of extending the line between the numerator and the denominator. So we're just going to extend this and multiply these two together, and then we can cancel out anything that matches up. So in this case, I can cancel 2x minus 3 and 2x minus 3 cancel. X plus 1 and x plus 1 cancel. X and x cancel, and we're just left with a 4 and an x plus 1 on top. So my answer is just going to be 4 times x plus 1. Okay? That's it. Everything canceled out perfectly. We multiplied together, but it really is just like yesterday. Whenever we multiply, we just factor and put those on top together, factor, put those two on bottom together, and then cancel out anything we can. Okay? All right, let's turn the page and try another one. So, number 4. We're going to start off, let's factor out this top one. So, let's take this x squared minus x minus 12 off to the side. And listen to me. I'm just going to factor it in my head right here. Stay with me here. Okay? I'm going to build my parentheses. And we're just going to go ax, and then we're going to think of two numbers that multiply to equal negative 12, but add to equal negative 1. Okay? So, my two numbers are going to be Pretty straightforward, negative 4 and positive 3. Check this out. Negative 4 times negative 3 is negative 12, and negative 4 plus 3 is my negative 1 right here. So this is my factor. I can write that back over here. We have x minus 4 times x plus 3 on top. Okay, then let's take this x squared minus 16 and let's factor that over here. So x squared minus 16 is a perfect square. So if I factor this x squared minus 16, that's going to give me x plus 4 times x minus 4. Pretty much, guys, 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. 4 plus negative 4 is 0. So it cancels out. So this is the same thing. We pretty much did the same thing. This is just a difference of squares. So this is going to go on bottom. X plus 4 times x minus 4. Hey, look at that. I already see two that can factor. All right, now, this one over here, pretty strange. Let me show you what I mean. This one is going to be over 1, right? If you have one just being multiplied, it's over 1. So let's take this x cubed plus 64 out to the side and let's factor it. Now, this x cubed plus 64 is a sum of cubes. If you do not remember the way to factor sum of cubes, go back and watch yesterday's video or the previous week's video over factoring sum and difference of cubes. I'm just going to factor it here. X cubed plus 64 can factor. We build our small parentheses. That's a plus b. Remember, my a, this is x cubed, and this is 4 cubed. Use your calculator if you forget your perfect cubes. We have a small parentheses with a plus b, and a bigger parentheses with a squared plus a minus ab plus b squared. So we're going to go x plus 4 times x squared minus 4x plus 16. So there you go. We can write this out on top. So we're going to have x plus 4 times x squared minus 4x plus 16. And remember, this is over 1, right? So now, whenever I multiply these together, I'm just going to kind of extend my line, multiply the tops together, the bottoms together, and we just cancel out whatever we can. So in this case, well, actually, let's talk about my undefined values first. So everything's factored in the denominator. So for this one, we're going to have an undefined value of x can't equal negative 4, and for this one, positive 4. Okay, now let's cancel out. This x minus 4 and x minus 4 cancel. At this x plus 4 and this x plus 4 cancel as well. So this leaves me with a final answer of x plus 3 times x squared minus 4x plus 16. Cannot simplify that anymore. Technically, we could multiply it out further, but it's okay to leave them in those parentheses after you've made your cancellations. All right, moving on. Let's take a look at number 5. So number 5, once again, we're going to factor piece by piece, right? So let's start off. Let's factor the top one here. This 2x squared minus 32. We can factor that out over here. First step, look for a GCF. I do have a GCF on this one. It's going to be 2. So we're going to leave 2 times x squared minus 16. X squared minus 16, I can factor that. It's a binomial. It's a difference of squares. So that's going to be 2 times x plus 4 times x minus 4. Okay, so that's going to go on the top of my fraction here. 2 times x plus 4 times x minus 4. Next, we're going to look to factor this x minus 4. Well, that x minus 4 can't really factor, so we're just going to write that as x minus 4. I went ahead and put parentheses around it because I know I'm going to be multiplying it to my other side. Then, we're going to multiply this whole thing and we have x plus 1 up here. X plus 1, that can't really factor, so that one's just going to stay right there. Put some parentheses to help protect it a little bit. And then lastly, my 4x squared minus 4, maybe I can factor that one. 4x squared minus 4. Pull out a GCF of 4, leaving me x squared minus 1. And that x squared minus 1 is a perfect square. So I can make this x plus 1 times x minus 1. All right, so there we go. We're going to have 4 times x plus 1 times x minus 1. Okay, now we're going to simplify as much as I can. So let's cancel out first. Well, sorry, I always skip this part. Undefined. My undefined is going to be x cannot equal. For that one, it's going to be 4. For this one, it's going to be -1. And for this one, it's going to be +1. All right, then we're going to cancel out. So this x minus 4 and this x minus 4 cancel. This x plus 1 and this x plus 1 cancel. This 4 and this 2 cancel, and 2 divided by 4 gives me a 2. So we're going to replace this 4 with a 2, and this 2 on top goes away. So let's see what that leaves me with. That's going to leave me with just an x plus 4 on top and a 2 times x minus 1 on bottom. Okay? So like I said, factor each quadrant and then cancel out what you can. All right, number 6. This is our last one for this lesson. So first off, let us factor out this guy, this 2x plus 10. Too easy. Just pull out a GCF and it's going to be 2 times x plus 5. There's my first factor. Second factor, x squared minus 1. That's a perfect square. That's going to be x plus 1 times x minus 1. So that goes on bottom here. Next factor, we have this x minus 1 on top. I can't factor that at all, so we're just going to leave it as x minus 1 on top. And our last one, this x squared plus 6x plus 5. Go off to the side, write that out, x squared plus 6x plus 5. Remember, we can just do our x and our plus and everything, but I'm just going to write my parentheses. We're going to be thinking of just x's here, 2 numbers that multiply to my last number and add to the middle number, and that's just going to be 5 and 1. It's going to be x plus 5 and x plus 1. Those are going to be my factors here. So let's write those out. X plus 5 times x plus 1. Now we're just going to cancel everything that we can. Well, sorry, like I said, I always forget about undefined. So my undefineds are x plus 1, x minus 1. So we're going to say undefineds, x can't equal, for this one, the opposite, -1. For this one, the opposite, +1. For this one, -5. And for this one, -1. But we already have that written, so we don't have to write it twice. Now, we cancel. This x minus 1 and this x minus 1 cancel. This x plus 5 and this x plus 5 cancel. 2 is nothing to cancel with. My x plus 1s are both on the bottom, so we don't cancel those. So now let's just write out our final answer. We just have a 2 on top, and then we have 2 x plus 1s on bottom. So I can just write that as x plus 1 squared. Okay? All right. So summarize the process. First, we factor. Second, we find my undefineds. Then we can, those are the ones that are on the bottom. Then we combine our fractions by multiplying, and we cancel it out, and we get our final answer. Okay? So that's really the process. Listen, if you have any questions, remember I'm available to Google Meet with you and to help you any way I can. Please let me know if you have any questions at all. Thanks, guys.